We're now live again.
Okay, I'm waiting for my last council member who's here. So why don't we get started? It is 8:40 and I'll call the official meeting to order. Let's do a pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So for the official council meeting, I'm also doing a roll call. I've got two permitted absences of council member Grant and council member Amar Blair. And then I see the rest of the council is here. I see the city administrator and the city attorney here. So our first item is public comment. We had a sign-up sheet at the start, which has been sitting up here. I'm sure that other people, you don't have to sign up in order to speak. I will do, as a matter of the chair's discretion, I'll ask the person who came to me and said they needed to go to speak first. That would be Barbara McNair. Barbara, why don't you come up, tell us where you live. You can talk on any comment, any topic for 3 minutes, except unless we're having a public hearing. There is a public hearing on parking requirements, so I'm assuming you're not going to talk to us about parking requirements, but you might. If so, don't put those in this remarks, okay? Anything you want.
All right. My name is Barbara McNair, 24 North Cedar Street, and I'm here because I want to request the city to replace the blacktop sidewalk that runs from Main Street all the way to Verplank on North Cedar with a real cement sidewalk. I'd also like to request that a street light be put on North Cedar between the homes of 33 to 35 North Cedar, because it is very dark from that end of Oak Street to Verplank. There are no lights other than the homeowner lights. And that's my request.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just go down the list, and if you aren't on the list, after that, you'll all have an opportunity to speak. So I've got Teresa Kraft first. It's all yours.
Thank you. We all know that incremental development is still better than large-scale development. I ask the city to slow the pace. On that note, let's not rush the planning of the Route 52 corridor and not allow it to be developed piecemeal. While reading tonight's packet on local law resolution number 74 RD-140, I questioned the line item RD-1.8 and asked, does it really state 10 floors, 100-foot maximum in the dimensional regulations? Hopefully it's the typo carried over from the original 2022 document. Listening to tonight's workshop discussion on the 248 Tioronda Avenue project was an eye-opener. I've been following this project for years here and at planning board meetings. We saw it come back multiple times, scaling back and forth, including its public amenities to the public along the Greenway Trail. I believe this project is on the back end of its construction build-out and may be too late to restructure its build-out to include more affordable housing, as the council requested tonight. It's been through many iterations and public hearings. Listening again tonight, I am happy the developer is listening to the council and is still open to sharing the Fishkill Creek access to the public with the Greenway Trail, while looking out for the public safety in the future facing 100-year floods in that floodplain. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Bernstein.
Tina Bernstein, 39 Rombout Avenue. I'm here as a community resident, as a member of Community Voices Heard, and a member of BCAN, and I'm here to talk about good cause eviction law. I'm just going to put it very bluntly. We have a city right now of haves and have-nots. People can't find a place to live, and people we've worked with have been pushed out of this city and have had to move. And the issue of evictions is alive and well, and I think that when New York City, when this law was passed, our Democratic leadership sold tenants down the river. So basically, they created a law that appealed to the real estate lobby and to folks with money, and New York City was a part of that, but the rest of us upstate were screwed. So right now we have an opportunity, and there are certain things we can't change. But what we can change is having just one more unit, making it a single landlord with more than one unit. That is the only exemption. And as far as I'm concerned, luxury development or not, a landlord should not be allowed to raise the rent however they want and use whatever discretion they want to get rid of people who live there. And there are people in Colonial Springs, for example, where there are absentee landlords, and they have not been protected. There are people all over this city that deserve whatever protections we can give them. And you know what? You decide to become a landlord, as Paloma said, you take on being a landlord, you have responsibilities. I know people who are landlords, and they don't all take advantage of people, and they don't all decide to do what they're going to do just to make a buck. But we have plenty of units in this city and plenty of people being taken advantage of every single day, and there's no place for people to live. So as far as I'm concerned, you can talk the talk, but if you want to walk the walk, you do the maximum possible in terms of this good cause eviction legislation. It's a shame that Governor Hochul and our Democratic leadership sold tenants down the river. But don't let Beacon do the same thing, and do the maximum possible to protect people in the city and make sure they don't have to leave,
15
as so
seconds.
many have. It's really necessary.
Thank you. Arthur Kamens?
I want to echo what Hina just said, but maybe ask you to think about it in another way. I don't know if any of you have ever been evicted, okay? But I want you to try to get your head into people who have, and we've talked to plenty of people who either have been evicted or live in fear of being evicted. Imagine what's that like, to think, not only do I have to live in fear of being evicted, because if I complain, the landlord might not renew my lease, but also to live in fear that the landlord is going to raise my rent 30%, and I'm going to have to leave because I simply can't afford to live there. And from tenant perspective, it doesn't matter whether my landlord owns 100 units, 10 units, or 1 unit. I'm still living in fear of being evicted. And I would say that if a landlord wants to be in the business of being a landlord, then it doesn't matter whether I have 1 unit or 10 units or 100 units. You still have a responsibility to treat tenants with some decency. And that means not being able to evict them without good cause, and you have to go to court to evict somebody, as Paloma said earlier. So it's not a burden on them, it's already what is required. And tenants have a right, as they should have a right, which they don't now, to be able to challenge those reasons. So again, I want to encourage you to make this as expansive as possible, and that includes going down to more than 1 unit. And I think I agree that those protections should be for anyone. Just because you can afford to live in a higher priced unit doesn't mean you should be subject to capricious behavior on the part of your landlord. Thank you.
Thank you. Jo Marie Carr?
Good evening. I'm Jo Marie Carr, 27 Van Ness Road, Beacon, New York. And I'm here again before the City Council tonight to shed some light on the reactions made to the decisions made at the last council meeting in regards to the Veterans Flag Project. and to make another plea concerning the number of banners proposed for the future. We were glad to hear that the city took some initiative to increase the number of flags next year, but we feel like this was not enough. Simply put, we'd like to see an effort made to raise all the veterans' flags in Beacon. We could go back and forth about cost and manpower, but we ask that the city make budget appropriations and implement time allotments for next year so that this does not become burdensome on the highway department or any other departments in the city. Our request really is not absurd. We just simply would like to see all the flags raised in Beacon, and an honest effort to do so. If it means making policy to keep this so that this occurs in years ahead, then perhaps that's the way we should go. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. So that's everyone on the list. I'm happy to have others come up who want to speak. So why don't you come up, let us know who you are and where you live, and then use your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Karen Palumbo, 47 Old Castle Point Road, Wappingers Falls. This again is about, I'm going to echo the concerns that Ms. Carr just raised. At the last meeting, I was a little blown away about how complicated this military banners, the project was made by your city administrator. And also, as I expressed too, I was very troubled that his statement was that he did not want to manage this project anymore. Now, I did send a letter to Mr. Mayor, the city council members, Mr. White as well, and I think I missed the attorney. But I hope you would take what I put into the record, what I put in that letter seriously. I did express to Mr. Carmine Esteban, who is the highway superintendent of Fishkill, about this project and the situation, and he agreed as well. It was made very overly complicated and has no issue with trying to offer guidance so this program can get implemented and the banners can go up every year for everyone. And his suggestion, as I put on his letter, was your highway superintendent, Michael, now his name is escaping me, Mazzi, I think it is. He knows this individual, they work together, and again, it probably should be the job of the highway superintendent. They obviously are well aware of what is going on, and it does take the burden off of the city administrator, and it could be effectively run. So I do hope that the committee, the council members, do seriously consider that. Mr. Esteban is more than, I put his email, I put his cell phone number, has no problem talking to anyone about this program and how it could be better managed. Thank you.
Mayor, point of order,
Thank you.
please. Please.
I
I just want to note that I said that the veterans groups are managing the banners. Joan Miskell and our veterans are doing a great job on this. To have somebody from Wappingers come and be so presumptuous to tell me that we should be calling another town's highway department when we make the decisions about where things are allocated here. You know, you should take yes for an answer, because if you keep coming back at us, we might change our mind that we're going to go to 100.
So,
we might actually say we're not going to do any next year, because this has been nothing but ridiculous.
So I would
We're
appreciate.
done.
Hang
We're done with your
on.
comment. Can you stop
Hang on.
putting
Hang
words
on.
in my mouth?
Hang on. Okay. I think you're finished. I would appreciate the city administrator to just listen.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I'm not going to sit here and have lies spewed out.
You're welcome to correct the record, but thank you for your comments.
There are no
I appreciate it.
Particularly from somebody who doesn't even live in Beacon, who's
Well,
got an
for-
awful lot to
Okay,
say.
wait, hang on, folks, come on, everybody, okay? We have others who want to speak, I'd like for them
That's
to
fine.
speak as well.
Thank
okay?
you, sir.
Who'd like to be next? Let us know who you are and where you live.
Good evening. My name is Julie Winterbottom. I live in Ward 1, and I'm a member of Beacon Climate Action Now. And I want to speak about good cause eviction tonight. As we all know, rental prices in Beacon have soared over the past 5 years. In 2022, the most recent year available from Dutchess County, the average rent for a market rate one-bedroom apartment in Beacon was $2,240 a month, higher than anywhere else in the county. Having been a renter in a similarly overheated real estate market for most of my adult life, I know what it's like to worry that asking for repairs will lead to losing my lease. I know the feeling of dread that a huge hike in rent will accompany my lease renewal. To give a modicum of protection to Beacon's diverse community of renters, I urge you to adopt a version of good cause eviction that will protect a meaningful number of tenants and take into account the types of rentals prevalent in Beacon. That means adjusting the state law to define small landlord as someone who owns one rental unit, but not more than that. To use a larger number defeats the purpose of the law, which is to protect tenants here in Beacon. In New York City, thousands of tenants live in huge apartment buildings, and using a broad definition of small landlord can still protect many people. Here in Beacon, once you exclude buildings constructed after 2009 and Section 8 housing, which are exempt under this law, I would wager there are not many landlords who own more than 10 units. Without a narrow definition of small landlord, the law offers little protection to scores of tenants. It is already very generous to landlords, more generous than the law Beacon passed a few years ago. The current law allows a whopping 10% annual rent increase. Landlords can still evict tenants for non-payment of rent, for unruly behavior, and many other reasons. While tenants who wish to challenge an eviction must spend money to take a landlord to court, which for some will be a major barrier. Please do the right thing and adopt the strongest possible version of this law, which even at its most robust is the weakest good cause eviction law in the country. Help our neighbors stay in Beacon. Help preserve what economic and racial diversity we still have here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure, come on up. Could you make sure you let us know who you are and where you live?
Absolutely. Terry Nelson, 1 Deerfield Place. Over the past few years, a resident of Beacon has made it his mission to spread hate by leaving offensive letters at the homes of LGBTQ individuals and their allies. During my time on the council from 2018 to 2021, this individual would email these letters to me on a regular basis. Upon reporting the incidents to both the Beacon City Police Department and some of my colleagues, their response was to downplay the situation because he was only seeking attention, and I was advised to ignore him. Others told me he's an old man and it would look like we were picking on him. Well, apparently he's not too old to hand deliver hate mail to people's individual homes. My question is, why was there so much concern for his feelings while the concerns of the members of the LGBTQ community and their allies were shoved aside? Recently, this person left another one of these letters on my doorstep, as well as many others in my neighborhood. We can no longer turn a blind eye to this person's heinous deeds. By not taking action, we give this person and those who share their mindset the green light to persistently engage in such behavior. Does he have help? I wouldn't know, because no one to my knowledge has looked into it. Being well known in a community should not excuse that person from reprehensible behavior. This person has stated in the past that it's his First Amendment right to distribute these letters, and that sentiment only demonstrates an appalling ignorance of the law. Free speech does not make you immune to criticism. No one has the right to harass those they dislike or disagree with, especially if it infringes on their rights. They do not have the right to leave hateful, fact-free screeds on people's doorsteps. And it pains me to say this because I know members of his family and they are wonderful members of our community. While I applaud the flying of the pride flag at City Hall during Pride Month, its significance runs the risk of being diminished if the continued harassment by this individual of the LGBTQ community and their allies goes unpunished. I've been where you're sitting. I know how limited you are and what you can do, but the thing I ask for you now is your loud and unwavering support. Anyone who receives these letters, please keep them and report it to the Beacon City Police Department. Also inform the mayor, city administrator, and the entire council, as well as the Dutchess County Commission on Human Rights. I have members of my family, as well as close friends, who are part of the LGBTQ community, and they deserve better. I'll ask everyone in this room, would you want this to happen to
15 seconds.
you? Thank you. I'm almost done. To paraphrase Justice Sonia Sotomayor, can our community survive the stench of benign neglect if one individual's harassment of the LGBT community is ignored? To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Next, come on up, tell us who you are, where you live.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jessie Van Amberg, and I live in Ward 4. I'm here tonight to ask the council to pass the strongest possible version of good cause eviction again in the city. As I have mentioned to this council before on numerous occasions, I have knocked on hundreds of doors in Beacon and have had conversations with many, many neighbors as a member of Beacon Climate Action Now over the past 2 years. And the overwhelming theme in all of those conversations has been concerns about being able to afford to stay in the city we all love so much. Personally, I've had several friends, all of whom are active and engaged members of the Beacon community, have to leave our city within the last few years to find something they can actually afford to rent or buy. Housing is, of course, a very complex problem that requires a variety of different solutions. But one thing I think the city needs to do now to get us started to pass the strongest possible version of good cause eviction again in order to protect renters from unjust evictions and exorbitant rent hikes. Good cause eviction is at its heart common sense that requires landlords to have, well, a good reason for evicting someone. It gives tenants the ability to challenge unfair evictions in court, as we've discussed. It requires landlords to justify rent increases greater than 10%, both to tenants and to a judge. It would allow tenants to organize, demand repairs, and stand up to unfair landlord practices without the fear of retaliation. And ideally, it would define small landlords, which would be the people exempt from good cause, as those who own just one rental unit, so that we can provide the maximum amount of renters protection from unfair practices. Beacon passed its own version of good cause in 2022. It was struck down in court months later due to state law preemption. This left so many families in our community vulnerable to the trauma of eviction, unsure of their rights, and struggling to stay afloat. But now that the state has a good cause eviction framework for municipalities, it is the city's duty to reinstate good cause to provide the maximum amount of protection possible under the law for the renters here in the city, who have just as much right to stable, secure housing as anyone else. The state version, which was largely designed with the realities of New York City in mind, offers many, many, many concessions and loopholes to landlords, including a higher allowable rent increase percentage than Beacon's prior good cause eviction law. We unfortunately can't change that, but we can at least ensure that people who are taking on the responsibility of providing housing to others are treating their tenants more fairly during the eviction process. Sticking to applying this law only to people with over 10 rental units doesn't feel genuinely in touch with the renting realities of our smaller municipality, and I fear would not protect very many people in the city. Good cause eviction, of course, is the bare minimum. There's so many things the council can pursue to help make the city more affordable and accessible to all.
15 seconds.
Several solutions, including hiring a housing justice coordinator, exploring social housing on city-owned lots, and much more. More robust action is needed to prevent the people who make our community vibrant from being squeezed out. But let's start with the basics. Good cause eviction as a first step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical public? Come on up. Let us know who you are, where you live.
Bill Irwin, Ward 4. I just want to point out one specific thing that is a huge problem for tenants in the city and is relevant to the ease or relative ease with which people can be thrown out of their apartments. And that is that many of the apartments that people in Beacon spoke to people, many of the apartments they live in, and I heard 3 really bad stories, are in incredible disrepair for years. And the people are afraid to complain because they're afraid of getting thrown out of their apartments, and they have no place else to go. One person in the old buildings excuse me, across from Kemprine and the Industrial Arts, they had serious mold conditions. They had a huge wasp nest inside the apartment. They had broken stairs, and the landlord refused to fix it. anything that Beacon can do to help tenants is absolutely necessary. We can't just throw people out of Beacon because they don't have enough money to sue. So I support this minimal redefinition of what a small landlord is, and anything else that can be done for people who are in such bad straits thanks to the City of Beacon's failure to enforce building codes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the physical audience want to speak? Okay. We're at, we've got a few more minutes. Ben, does anyone online also want to speak?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your screen. If you're joining by phone, you can press *9 and we'll need to unmute once called upon. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll need to join us on Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Currently, we have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. All right, so there's a second opportunity for public comments. If you didn't get a chance to speak on this one, there will also be a public hearing. So the next thing we will do is a public hearing. That is on a proposed local law concerning parking requirements. And then, Nick, can you give us a brief description of that? And then I'll open up the public hearing on parking.
Thank you, Mayor. So this local law would amend zoning to remove minimum parking requirements in certain zoning districts, modifies the parking requirements in all districts, and really simplifies how parking is regulated within the City of Beacon through its zoning code, and grants a fair amount of latitude to the planning board to work with applicants to ensure that the necessary parking is being provided, but at minimum, so we don't have an over-parking situation, as we've discussed in a number of workshops. And I know that the materials in the agenda packet provide a significantly more detail than what I've provided, but that's a brief overview of tonight's public hearing on the zoning amendment.
Okay, so I'll open up the public hearing for this change in the parking requirements, and if you'd like to speak, I'll go off the list first. I have Teresa Kraft. Thank you.
Thank you. Incremental develop, I already read that, sorry. Sorry. It is past my bedtime. The high cost of parking affects our daily existence, and I believe our community deserves better. While it's possible to live without a car for many day-to-day errands in this city, most people still own cars. Since a large share of homes and businesses in this city don't have ample private parking, we are already facing a parking crisis. Parking mandates take away the flexibility that apartment renters and homeowners have been dependent on. Competing with new dwellers and visitors are taking their toll on this community. Parking minimums also pass the costs on to the public in the form of extra infrastructure that must service all that parking without the taxable value to recoup public investment. Ending or scaling back parking mandates and allowances can free up vast swaths of land that can be used more productively, but they'll build on it and we'll still have no parking. Perhaps we need municipal parking garage structures throughout the city. This is a good thing, but only your resolution on the agenda is a good thing, but only if it is for the benefit of all the residents across the city. I believe it's a step in the right direction, but not an end-all, be-all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical public want to make a comment on parking? Seeing none. Ben, is there anyone on the virtual public that wants to make a comment on parking?
None, Mayor.
Okay. What would the council like to do on this public hearing? I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn it.
Yeah, Mayor, you could also close the public hearing if council were inclined.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an option. We've had some
Yeah.
feedback from both the city and county planning boards. You've had a number of workshops on this.
It's not on our agenda to vote on
That's
tonight,
correct.
is
So
it?
your workshop is at your next meeting.
So, I'm sorry, I actually meant to say that we
You
would...
meant to say close,
Close,
not
right? Because, I mean, we had very little input here. It seems to me it's a non-issue at this stage. So I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
I mean, my opinion is the same as it was before when we discussed whether or not to hold this public hearing, which is that if we're not required to close it and can vote on it the same day, I'd prefer to leave it open. Recognizing that it's very unlikely that we'll receive new feedback, but on principle, I don't see the cost as detrimental to us.
So what's the council like to do? What are we thinking in terms of schedule? Are we thinking of scheduling this for the 2 weeks from now?
For a vote?
To workshop it on the 5th and to vote on it, yes. If the council's ready, we'll certainly place it on the agenda.
And are we thinking we would put it in workshop ahead of time for any changes?
I don't think there are any changes. We have a few minor clerical, typographical, and administrative matters that the county has suggested, but nothing substantive.
I would appreciate it just to remind me about what I'm voting on, as it's been a while.
Okay. So I think there was a motion to adjourn, or not?
Motion to adjourn the public hearing to August 5th.
I'll second that.
All right. I would like the motion to be amended to say and to vote on it on the same day, unless substantial input is heard.
And to place it on the agenda of August 5th for consideration.
Yeah. Right, because if we're trying to get it done and we're just, we're done now, but we want to just in case leave it open, I just would appreciate that.
Yeah, I would be fine if we, for example, it is pushed, the voting meeting is pushed to August 22nd, or whatever the next meeting is, that we don't also need to have a public hearing on the 5th. So I agree with the mayor's amendment, if that's what you meant by that. That if there is a delay in us voting on it, we don't need an interim public hearing.
I see. So have the next public hearing on the same, as part of the same day that we also have a workshop. So if it's not on the agenda for the 5th, for whatever reason, to not have a public hearing that day, Paloma?
Is that what you meant, or is that, am I?
No, I was thinking,
Let's do it on the 5th?
not counting our summer rules, right? I think we've got a rule that says, we shouldn't be voting on something at the same meeting that we're workshopping, right?
It's not a rule.
Yeah, you
It's not a
don't
rule.
have a
It's-
rule. That was about hires, so
Right.
that people could
Right.
trash people on Facebook for a week or two before we had a vote. That's over.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we have no issue with respect to, again, putting it on the agenda. We'll we'll reopen the hearing, receive any final comments, and then everyone's okay to vote. I just don't want to be
Correct. The only
Yes.
thing that might
Yeah.
change that would be if you receive a public comment,
Yes,
that's
of
someone that
course.
says, let's workshop it. So what I'm hearing is the desire from the council to workshop it first, convene the public hearing, subject to hearing comments, closing the hearing, and if any comments are raised, you would workshop it so you could still vote on it that night unless you all thought it should be pushed back.
Okay,
Yes, I'm fine with that.
all right. So that's all right by
Yeah.
council? All right, so there's a motion to adjourn the public hearing to August 5th, is that the right date?
August 5th, yes.
Okay. All in favor of that adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? For the heck of it, I'm going to say no. I never do that. So I think we're done with this law. But that's fine. Let's do reports. Do you want to start with Pam at your end, and we'll work our way around? Thank you.
Well, I attended the Office of the Aging senior picnic last week. Well, every day is hot, but it was a pretty hot one. I'm not there yet senior-wise, but it was hot. But one thing that I did talk to one of the groups about, Office of the Dutchess County Office of the Aging are looking for volunteers for friendly calls, just like 20 minutes per week, that you're just reaching out to those who just need a check-in. If you are interested in volunteering, you can call Linda Edgar at 845-486-2548. She is with Dutchess County Office of the Aging. Also, working on getting an appointment to meet with those managing the veterans flags. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet with them before our next council meeting to just hear their input of what they're expecting, because I feel like we haven't heard from them at all. And that is about it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. I'm super quick. I'm just noting that I will not be holding office hours in the month of August, but I would welcome any contact via email or phone to schedule a time to speak with me on any issue concerning the city. Thanks.
Jeff?
I've just got a couple of city project updates, just thought it's worth pointing out. The first is on the water meter change out mailings that are happening. I'm in Ward 2. We've discussed Ward 1 receiving these letters, but I did receive a letter. I did schedule my appointment, contacted by constituents who are concerned that they'll miss the letters. So Chris provided an update, said that it is a work in progress, but I really do encourage the city to provide as much update because there are potentially onerous penalties for missing scheduling if you don't schedule in time. So appreciate any update we can get on that too. And Chris, you were kind enough to share an update on a second project, which is fantastic to see progress on Teller Avenue and Fishkill Avenue. The sidewalks torn up, but it is a situation with those sidewalks torn up and access required. There is sidewalks on the other side, on the east side, but with the west side now all torn up, it's an issue. Had a question about when that will be done. You said it'll at least likely be weeks before that. Yes. So just to inform people that it is in the works and would welcome any updates that could be posted for folks to get information, again, both on the water meter change outs and on the construction on Teller. But thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to congratulate the Beacon Elks Lodge on turning 100. They had a great parade this past Saturday, and their official birthday is this coming Wednesday, July 17th, and I think people sitting at this table might be part of the induction ceremony on that day, which is just great to see all the ways that they have contributed to our community over the years and continue to contribute. I also got a tour of the Madame Barrett Homestead, which I'm a little bit ashamed to say I hadn't done before, but it was great to do it. Also very hot as the senior picnic, but it was just great to learn the history of the community and learn things that I didn't know, both about Madame Barrett herself and just the building that she and her family lived in for so long. And the last thing, I have office hours coming up this Friday, July 19th. I am told the weather might be good enough for me to hold them in Pole Hill Park, which is where I normally do, from 4 to 6 p.m. on Friday, but if anything changes, I'll just be in Bank Square Coffee House, and I will pass it to you, Lee.
I'll also be pretty brief. July 4th, we did the declaration, I think this is year 15, here at City Hall, and I had the honor to read it. And I still struggle to read through the declaration because it's such a powerful document. But I got the big words like usurpations. So also on July 4th, we had fireworks in the park. I went wandering through Memorial Park before the fireworks, and a clear majority of the people that I just said hello to were not from Beacon. And I actually think that's great. What that's saying is that we're attracting people here. And it's not just, because we've got this main street and we got a lot of tourists. We also get people coming to see our fireworks, which I think is grand. I also attended the Office of the Aging picnic with Pam. I had to sing Sweet Caroline.
You did.
Yeah, I know. And then also the Elks Parade, hats off to their 100 years and to all the community service that they do. And then lastly, we missed the Benny Havens band, which is a component of the West Point band. Our rec department had set up for them to be here this past Friday, and it was called on rain. So I'm looking forward to them coming again. And that's all I got. I think, Chris, you're going to give us a couple of updates on things, right?
Yes.
Okay, please.
So first, I want to start by thanking our water department, who came in yesterday for a significant water break in the town of Phillipstown. By Cargill Reservoir, we had a water main break that damaged about 400 feet of road. The mayor and I went out and toured it this morning. We're going to have to replace 400 feet of road, but I appreciate our staff coming in quickly. Ed Balicki and 7 or 8 of our staff came in to shut the water off, replace the broken water pipe, stabilize it, and they even lined a contractor up who was there starting work this morning at 6 a.m. And we hope to have that road reopened sometime on Wednesday. Water meters, we have installed more than 60 now, and we've set up 500 appointments. The first tranche of letters went to what they're calling Cycle 1, which was a subset of Ward 1 with a little bit of bleed over into some of the areas in Ward 2. They're doing an analysis to figure out who the other households are. We'll let you know when the next mailing is going out, but things are going well. We are not being punitive at this point. If you didn't get a letter, we're not coming, knocking on your door. We have enough appointments to keep us busy for some months. On Fishkill-Teller Avenue, I just want to say we've been coordinating with residents and local businesses to try to keep them open. Libby's Funeral Home, Beacon Daily, we appreciate their flexibility. We should be putting those sidewalks in the next 2 to 3 weeks at the latest. And then we'll be moving to the other side of the street to do the drainage work, which is going to be a little bit more complex. On banners, I do want to just say I did reach out to the committee already at your direction, and I said, why don't you come back to us with a proposal for where you want the next 40 banners? I am not going to call somebody from another municipality to ask their advice on how to do our job. Thank you.
The only thing I would add is I got a chance to go up to Cargill today. Well, actually, I didn't get all the way to the dam because the road was blocked. But I'd never been up to Cargill, and I was just thinking, gosh, I've been here how long? So Cargill is east of Route 9, which is a very unusual place. All right, our other reservoirs are up on Mount Beacon, right? There's Melzinga, which is close to 9D, and then the Mount Beacon Reservoir, which is kind of spot up at the top. And it was just, enlightening because it was a part of our system I didn't see. And I just want to thank Ed and his crew, and also the Highway Department, which was involved in some of the just rapid response to that. Luckily, this is an access road up to Cargill. There's a couple of homes on it. There apparently was one home where you could see their driveway. We're going to have to do a little bit of work to, make it less likely for that water to come down, which I think will be to their advantage because they get runoff from the road anyway right now, and the way we're going to do the work, they'll be protected from that as well. So I said I was very impressed, so I want to thank them. That's all I've got. I think we're going to local laws and resolutions. The chief is here because the first two resolutions, I'm looking for a motion and a second on the first one to appoint Thomas Durkin to the position of Police Detective Sergeant.
Motion?
Second.
So that's Molly and Pam. Any discussion on that? Again, we had it in our workshop an hour ago, right? So all in favor of appointing Thomas Durkin to the position of Police Detective Sergeant, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you
Were you
go-
going to speak?
go ahead.
Okay, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Tom's just there in case you lost your way on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelvin, I can say Kelvin, and I can pronounce Gray, even though it's got an E instead of an A. So the second one we're looking for is a motion and a second to appoint Kelvin Gray to the position of Police Sergeant.
Motion.
Second.
So that's Jeff and Pam. Any discussion on that that we didn't have in our workshop? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of appointing Kelvin Gray to Police Sergeant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
And we'll be
Thank
doing
you guys
a-
very much.
Yeah, and we'll be doing a ceremonial swearing in on the 5th of August. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I appreciate the report, too. It was very comprehensive. Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah. Okay. The third item is referring a concept plan for 248 Tyranda to the planning board. So as we discussed, it's a concept plan, and in the end, the concept plan is for us to approve the change, but part of the process is to refer it to the planning board. So I need a motion and a second for that referral.
And this resolution is also to schedule a public hearing for August 19th.
Ah, thank you.
Motion. Second?
Okay, so that was Pam and Molly. So both the referral to the planning board and scheduling the public hearing for August 19th. Okay?
Thank you, Chris.
My question, I guess, is for Nick or whomever about process. Do we want to include any amendments in this resolution to point to our interest in additional workforce housing units, or that was directed solely to the developer?
That was directed to the developer. I will pass this discussion along to Jennifer Gray, who attends the planning board, so that there is feedback provided to the planning board as they begin their discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay. All in favor of referring the concept plan for 248 Tyranda to the planning board and setting a public
Oh, sorry,
hearing?
one other thing, sorry. In the resolution itself, it looks like there might have been some funky formatting with the first now therefore be it resolved, so just.
We'll correct that,
do
thank you.
with it. Sorry about that, Lee.
Okay. August 19th.
August 19th.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you for not making me repeat it. Okay, so the fourth item is also a resolution. This is a resolution to set a public hearing for a proposed local law concerning eviction prohibition without good cause. Can I get a motion and a second on that?
Motion?
Second.
So that was Paloma and Jeff. Any discussion on setting the public hearing? Okay. All in favor of setting the public hearing for
August 5th.
August 5th, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Then the next one is also a referral. We're referring a local law concerning soil stabilization that's using biodegradable, materials for that. And we're going to refer it to our planning board and to the Dutchess County Planning Board. Are we also setting a public hearing?
For August 19th.
For August 19th. So I'm looking for a motion and a second for those three bits.
Motion.
So that was Jeff and Pam? Okay. And again, referral to the planning board, referral to the county planning board, and public hearing on the 19th.
Correct.
All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, also unanimous. And then the last one is concerning dimensional regulations of the T district. So this is a referral to both our planning board and the Dutchess County Planning Board, and setting a public hearing for
August 19th.
For the 19th to give them time to do that.
Yes.
All right, so I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Pam and Paloma?
Yeah.
Okay. And any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Cool. Okay. So I know this is going to take us a while. The minutes of June 1st. Can we at least start with a motion and a second before we engage in vigorous debate on this one?
Motion.
Second?
Molly and Paloma? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, have at it, everybody.
Yeah, one amendment. I did not vote on the resolution to do with hours. I recused myself. So that should
good catch.
be amended.
Very good catch.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Anything else? All right, hearing none, do we want to have a public hearing on the minutes? We could set one.
There was also a typo in the agenda that said it was the minutes of June 1st, but the minutes themselves are correct.
Oh, you mean on our agenda,
Yeah.
it says June 1st, and I think I said June 1st too, right?
You did.
But I think you all meant.
No, it's July. So
okay.
Ben, if you can update that, please.
Yeah. All right, so making sure that we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 1st, and my motion and second just nodded and said yes. All in favor of approving those minutes of July 1st, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Second opportunity for public comment. Ben, you got anybody?
None online?
Okay.
Yeah.
The next meeting will be on August 5th at 7 p.m. for a workshop, and then hopefully that our regular meeting would start at 8 p.m. Anything else before we go into an executive session?
Nope, just motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate and do no further public business thereafter.
Second?
Okay. So I got a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Teresa.
And we have no one online.